Good morning, and here we are back again to be with you for another episode of Oh No, You Didn't. I'm your man, GC, coming to you live from Vancouver, Washington, with my special co-host and author, Renee Green. Let's give her a hand, y'all. Yeah, we are back at you again, and hopefully that now that we're on YouTube, you'll begin to follow us as well and share us. But please make certain that you mark us a follower. Uh, Today's episode: Normality in the midst of abuses, trauma. Hopefully, this will assist you in being able to realize some of the various forms of normality that you'll be striving for, but also to the effect that you will realize that one size doesn't fit all, and there are certain responses to trauma, some that counselors will tell you, and some that in my reading, they're common sense. Okay. But we're going to delve a little deeper into it from someone who's had to deal with it from a perspective, who's also the author of Fractured Faith. Yeah. I'm just saying. Yeah, it's getting closer and closer to that time. And so here she is, my sister, Renee Green.
Hello. Thank you. Yeah, we are going to dive into some of the things that you may be experiencing through your trauma that you might find yourself going, well, why am I reacting that way? I don't understand. So we'll just kind of give you a general idea of um, how normal, quote unquote. We know that that's just a setting on a dryer, but um, but we will try and kind of line that out for you so that you can feel like, hopefully, that what you're going through is completely normal. That's one thing that a doctor told me when I first started dealing with some trauma issues, and because I was asking, it's like, why am I responding this way, and why is this happening? Why is this happening? He said, darling, you are reacting completely normal for what you are going through. And so um, that really stuck with me. And that's true for you as well. Whatever you're dealing with, you're acting completely normal for what you've been through. Okay, so that's for today is to understand. It isn't about that. It's removing shame. So just remember that our trauma responses are not character flaws, they are survival adaptations. So I'm sure you've heard of fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, all those good things. Some of us just live in those spaces and never quite get out of them.
Yeah,
So.
but don't make this a stop, drop, and roll drill. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no. That is kind of how it sounds, doesn't it? No, but I'm sure if you've been into any kind of counseling and have been dealing with this for a while, you're very familiar with fight, flight, and freeze, especially. Fawn is a fairly new concept or um, addition to those nervous system reactions. And if you're not familiar with fawn, it's basically, people pleasing, avoiding contact, avoiding conflict, prioritizing other people's needs ahead of your own, those kinds of things. Problems with boundaries, saying no.
Oh, there's that word again.
I
Boundaries,
know.
boundaries.
Yeah, I get tired of hearing it myself. I told somebody not too long ago that said, okay, I'm this many years old. I'm not going to say. But if I haven't got it by now, just give it up. It's not going to happen. But no, that's not true. We can always manage to say no and set our boundaries and just learn from our experiences. So anyway, yeah, just remember that your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. That's really important to remember as you experience different things that you're, reactions to certain things. We'll get into it, getting startled easily, physical and emotional stuff. Why am I pushing this person away? All these different things. They're normal trauma responses. So that's what um, your that's your body's reaction to the trauma, and it can hold on to it for years, long time. The body just hangs on to it. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and I apologize, I don't remember the author. I should have had that ahead of time. But it kind of explains, if you're into reading and you want to, dive deeper into that. It's The Body Keeps the Score. And next week I'll try and have that. I'll throw that author name in there for you. But um, but it kind of dives into this a little more thoroughly.
Oh, okay.
You're interested.
So that will take us a little bit more into the sudden overwhelming aspects of
Mm-hmm.
what takes place within your body, as well
Yeah.
as the emotional numbness that
Yeah.
occurs. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the trauma basically rewires you to respond in all sorts of funky ways that you wish you didn't,
Okay.
at times. So, um, but yeah, we'll kind of break it down into categories. We'll talk a little bit about the emotional things that you might be experiencing first, and that could include being overwhelmed easily. If life is just throwing one thing at you after another, even if it's not throwing things one after another at you, you can still feel really overwhelmed. Sometimes it could just take one or two things to make you feel, whew, back off. I just need to curl up in my bed and not deal with anything because everything is overwhelming. Um, Emotional numbness also is another one, and you just kind of you kind of detach from your feelings
Okay.
quite often when you're dealing with trauma, and it's just too much, and so you cut off your feelings altogether.
So that's sort of like what is it, shutting down,
Yeah,
where you just shut down.
you
I
shut
think you
down.
had mentioned that in a previous episode
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the ability to shut down, and that would be frightening.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is. It's really unsettling to because I've gone through it where it's like, why am I not feeling anything? Why am I not crying at this Hallmark movie? Or
Yeah.
just any little thing. It's like my grandpa died. Why am I not crying? Just all those different things. You just kind of shut down. But then there's the opposite too, where you have those mood swings, and you're angry and you're flying off the handle about any little thing, or you're crying at everything. So there's all those different components to the emotional side of things um, that get a little overwhelming
Between
sometimes.
those two, between the emotional numbness and the mood swings, which would you consider to be more devastating?
um, Boy, I've experienced both of them, and they're both really tragic. I mean, because I don't know if one is worse than the other, really. Um, and they both can have, especially like if you're in a relationship, they can both have devastating consequences, on a relationship. Because if you totally tune out and you're not responding emotionally to your partner the way that one with a healthy person, quote unquote,
Hmm.
might, then then that's going to cause some issues. And the same goes for mood swings. If you're flying off the handle at everything that this person is doing or saying, or you can't seem to regulate, um, a healthy line of of responses, then um, that can have devastating consequences as well. So I'm not sure if one works in the other. It probably depends on the situation. Of course, off the top of my head, that's what I
Okay, yeah, because it
would.
seems like these characteristics, especially the one that's more noticeable, I would say, to someone involved in a relationship would be the mood swings.
Definitely more noticeable, yeah.
You know, it'd be one because I sort of feel and have lived through and walked through the experiences, much like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
where the mood swings, it took a while for me to adjust because it took a while for me to accept that this wasn't because of me, but
Mm-hmm.
because of a pattern from the past.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and I think our listeners and our viewers on YouTube need to realize this, that
Mm-hmm.
it's because of some characteristics and things from the past that you, as the partner, need to be able to recognize.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, well, we're not going to expose this now, but in future episodes, we will we will lean towards helping you as the partner learn to adjust, learn to recognize. I would say without revealing the recognition, because in some ways, and I could be way off base here, but some ways it was better when my response wasn't really pointed or recognizable by, in this case, my wife,
Right.
who was going through this, so that she wouldn't get the impression that I was thinking, well, here she goes again,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and I'm ignoring this because, oh, it's just from her past. She's not really thinking about me. And you don't want that to take
No.
place.
No. Not at
And,
all.
and so hopefully, well, I know, not hopefully, I know that in future episodes, we will touch on the ability to have recognition, but
Mm-hmm.
still support healing. I
Yeah.
guess that's
Yeah.
probably the best way
Absolutely.
to say it. Now that I've gotten this completely off out of
No, you're
kilter,
right on track. Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
but that was one of the things that was just kind of not just popping into my mind, but it was one of the things that we both lived with,
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah. The worst thing you can do is to say, "Whoa, you're just flying off the handle." Just accusatory, or
Yeah,
because that's not going to promote healing in any way.
no. But our next point is really one that's really got me. I know I just kind of just go, but shame that feels global.
Oh, yes.
Kind of give us, no, don't kind of give us. Let me, let,
Well, yeah, it's basically, this overwhelming feeling of shame, and it's not just I did something bad. It's like I am bad because of this. This makes me a bad person, or this. It's yeah. It's kind of like um, I don't know how to explain it other than just adopting this whole mindset that you are bad because this happened to you, even though in logically it's not your fault. But your heart just kind of takes over, and you just adopt this feeling and this overwhelming thought, this record that plays in your head that I am a bad person because of this, and that's not fair to yourself.
yeah. But isn't some of that brought on by how society, the person who's been abused, especially if it's physical abuse, like we've touched on in other episodes, where they're instantly found guilty until they can prove themselves innocent, and that by proving themselves innocent doesn't mean that it's actually accepted that they are.
Right,
You
right,
know,
exactly.
it's kind of one of those no-win type
It really is.
situations. It
Yeah.
really is. And I noticed here that you got into physical and nervous system
Yes.
symptoms.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's oh, now here we go. Y'all
Yeah.
pay attention. Here she comes.
Yeah. You know how we talked last week that trauma is not a memory, but it's actually a nervous system injury. And so your nervous system is heightened. It's taken a hit, and so you can experience chronic fatigue, sleep issues, whether insomnia or sleeping too much. Sometimes that's just disassociation too, but tension, you keep your tension in your jaw or your shoulders, and you can't relax, and the startled response. Uh, I remember it hasn't been very long that I've stopped jumping at every noise. And um, for the first 10 years after I was um, divorced, anytime I was in a store or a restaurant, I couldn't lose sight of the front door because I would have to know who was coming in and out. Because I was just that um, heightened alertness, that kind of takes over, and that's no fun. But then that's more in the mind, I guess. But then there's digestive issues, there's brain fog, there's um, there's potential for autoimmune diseases. Some scientists have contributed some autoimmune diseases such as fibromyalgia to trauma responses and how the body's hanging on to it. So any of those things, any one or all of those things, if you're experiencing them, it's normal, And so
Yeah, because I think that was one of the things that Cindy dealt with, especially along with digestive issues. For a while, they couldn't determine why these things were happening. They were searching more so for issues with the body rather than with the mind.
mm-hmm.
And so, do not feel like you're alone in that you're going crazy
Right,
because a physician or someone tells you, well, we can't find it. It's just in your mind.
right.
It's just in your mind. You take this pill because it's
Exactly, and
just in
that's
your
always
mind.
the response.
And that's generally will be the response to you. And just keep pushing forward. Just make sure that your advocate is truly like you had spoke before, and throughout this in all the episodes you will hear us speaking about your advocate or that person that you can count on, and that's what your advocate is, someone that you can trust, that's going to side with you, not against you, that will search for a means to help you formulate successive moods and a successive route through your life. And so remember that you are not crazy.
That's right.
Don't let no one convince you. And then, as you know, they try really hard. We'll take this pill, go to counseling, and then they send you to a counselor that's going to side with them and say, yeah, it's just in your mind. And so do not, I repeat, do not let them convince you of this because uh, the devil is a lie.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The spiritual side of things. That's exactly it. Satan just has a field day with trauma. He doesn't cause it, but he's the finisher of it. I mean,
Yeah, he's the executor.
yeah, he's an executor. That's it.
Yeah, and he caused you to stay, like you were just talking about, where you had to see the front door, the store door and what have you, because he keeps you in that fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as you're in fight or flight, you don't know yourself. You
Yeah.
can't begin to know yourself. It's like it's
Yeah.
a lot of people who came home after Vietnam and from Iraq and different places and Iran, they're in that constant fight or flight mode, because of the things and trauma that they went through over there. And so it's just so much.
Traumatic way to live.
It really is.
It really is, and that's why we have to hang on to that hope and knowing that even though our body has learned to um, hang on to trauma, and it's a learned response. Um, it's not something that's just ingrained. It's not something we were born with. And the nice thing about a learned response is that we can unlearn it. So, um, so I just want to hang on to that hope, you guys.
Yeah.
Because, um, yeah.
I guess that's really accompanied by, I notice here that you put a fear of abandonment and pushing people
Mhm.
away when you want closeness, but
Yeah.
hyper independence kind of.
I think I'm going through that right now, actually. I'm desperately trying to hang on to my independence. Just yeah, I'm in a relationship and right now, and um, he cares so much and he wants so badly to keep me safe and to make sure nothing ever happens to me again. That kind of thing, because he
Yeah.
knows my past, and at the same time, it feels a little overwhelming sometimes because I gotta hang on to my independence. I'm fine. I'm finally independent. I'm a strong woman. I'm da 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 da. I'm all these things, And then all of a sudden, this man comes along. It's like, no, don't take that away from me. but but no, it's really just, yeah, trying to find that independence, that strong person that can take care of yourself and thrive, um, and sometimes it's in a healthy way and sometimes not so much, because sometimes you can kind of go overboard, a little bit on just
Yeah, but isn't it sort of like, it's sort of like keeping your protection,
hmm
independence, because once it was surrendered, I would have to say it was surrendered several times, which placed you in a position where you could be taken advantage of.
hmm
And so, I even want our viewers know this even happens to men. Okay, do not feel like if you're a male and you're sitting there and you're listening with your friends or with your spouse or with your partner or two males.
hmm
I mean, domination can take place no matter who you are
yeah.
or who you're involved with. And so I believe that hyper independence, which you're having to live through now, uh, comes in all forms.
hmm
It can come with someone who just lost someone and
hmm
now they're venturing back out and they don't want to completely let go.
hmm
And so I think that sometimes it's a protective response.
hmm I think so.
And I guess it kind of leads to the other things that you have here, where you're talking about over explaining and people pleasing.
hmm
Yeah, yeah, you were a
Over
people pleaser.
explaining, the overthinker. You have to. It's like, don't think that I haven't thought about all of these scenarios because I'm an overthinker. I do. I have rattled off every potential pro and con and consequence and benefit, and it just keeps going on and on and on. It's like, so one thing that I heard someone say, I don't remember where I heard it, but it was kind of cool because he was saying, men, if you are loved by an overthinker, consider yourself blessed because she has thought of every single reason not to love you and not to be in this relationship with you. So consider yourself blessed. I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, good on but yeah, and the people pleasing, again, that's a fawn response, but that's how I've spent my life as well, in that fawn response. And it's exhausting, I mean, if you're living in any of those fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, any one of those is exhausting. Um, but sometimes they just become a way of life, you know.
Yeah, because it's like I noticed here that you put feeling unsafe in calm relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's no storm brewing,
Mm-hmm.
you're but basically like that. I saw this movie where they were uh, twister hunters or
Oh
something.
yeah.
You got you,
Yeah.
you
For sure, you're always looking for
you're
that
always out there
little
hunting for
tornado.
it. That little tornado hunters.
Yeah,
Uh,
it feels unsafe because it's not familiar. It's
okay.
it's just it's like, what is this? I've never experienced this before. How do I navigate this? This is just abnormal, and you don't know what to do, so it turns into feeling unsafe.
Yeah, so it's sort of like this deal that I read, and it states abuse distorts what normal means. It trains the body to live on alert, the mind to second guess safety, and the heart to brace for harm. And that reality, the search for normality, is not weakness; it is courage. And you referred to that other earlier about courage. And so it's like I sit here and I see these things, that replaying conversations, assuming rejection, yeah, black and white thinking. Explain the black and white thinking.
Well, yeah, it's just there's just no gray area. It's either this or this, and I mean just excuse me, um, just your regular, you know, just no give and take, no room for um, compromise um, or any other thought other than one way or the other.
I knew somebody like that. I think I told you about. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Yes. And then self blame.
Mm, yes.
That seems to be one of the major tendencies of people who get abused, as we've covered. And
Well, and it's sometimes if you're not around healthy people who also blame you, it's like, well, why don't you just leave? It's really not that easy.
okay,
I mean, depending on the situation, um, why, whether it's child abuse, yeah, childhood trauma, or you're in a domestic violence situation, it's either, why didn't you tell someone or why didn't you leave, and so that feeds that self blame. And those are really traumatic responses from the outside, towards that person who's been traumatized. It's um, if you know somebody that is dealing with trauma, just so you know.
okay,
Telling our viewers here.
yeah, because I think it needs to be a situation where people can realize that there are other paths they can take, and some paths are just determined to be the wrong road to travel. So
Mm-hmm.
don't experiment down them. Don't be led down them. Especially when it comes to how we make everything, like she said, black and white, and how we self blame. I think that self blame is one of the keys to the control that people have over
Mm-hmm.
us, no matter what the scenario. And so I think those are, guys, I wish I could sit here and read your book chapter by chapter, you know. But I notice here that you say that grieving who you thought you'd be.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of grief that surrounds trauma. Um, it's uh, grieving that person, like you said, that you thought you'd be. That I'm. You have dreams and goals and things that you want to do in your life, and different things about you that you thought were rock solid, and then all of a sudden this trauma comes about, and you lose yourself, and um, those hopes and dreams all of a sudden become so far away, if not impossible to achieve anymore, because you're so drawn into the trauma that because of all these other responses and your nervous system and all those things just kind of takes hold of your dreams and kind of trash can, you know.
Yeah, it kind of moves them out the way.
Yeah,
And
and that's unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be that way. But you have to fight for it.
because I notice here you have a statement, and it says, healing often feels worse before it feels better because you're finally feeling.
Hmm.
Get it, go.
Yeah, it's um, you've you spent so much time as someone who's been abused. You spend so much time detaching from everything, from people, from um, like I said, your hopes and dreams, and unfortunately from um, your feelings. It's just too hard to feel those things, and so you find yourself disassociating and detaching and that kind of stuff, and so um, when you finally start to face those things and say, okay, I've got to open this piece of luggage, this baggage, and sort through this, and finally look at it for what it is. And if I'm going to get anywhere in life, if I'm going to achieve any kind of goal or dream that I've had for myself, then I got to look at this stuff and start to heal. And that means that you're going to have to feel some things that you've been avoiding feeling for a long time. So that's what that kind of means.
Okay, and before we take out into our prayer, and by the way, don't think that we're cutting you short because there will be part two on this same topic line. Okay, and you'll be able to follow us once again. But I'm going to ask our distinguished author for a closing thought on this particular episode.
This particular episode, I just want to make sure that you guys you take away that all of these things. I keep saying normal, but you don't have to feel like Donald said earlier, that you're going crazy, or um, that you're different from somebody else. You're not in this alone. Um, all of these things are so normal for what you're going through, and I know that meant the world to me when I heard it, and I hope that you can grab onto that and understand that, um, and just glean hope from that, because like I said earlier, things that have been learned through trauma can also be unlearned through healing. So just grab onto that hope, and uh, get that support you need. Support is strength. It's not, the need for support is not failure. It's strength. So hang on to that, and um, just keep doing it. You've got this. You survived what you had to, and that took so much strength. And now you're allowed to heal from what you survived.
All right, and in regards to the question that was asked by our super fan, today's episode is about normality in the midst of abusive trauma. And so we are hoping that you will return to us. And as we close this session, as we always do with a brief prayer, we simply say, Father, as the healing begins, we ask that you help us redefine normal. Father, help us to know that normal is being believed. Normal is choosing peace over chaos. And that normal is saying this hurts and not being punished for it. And most importantly, Father, normal is slow healing, not instant strength. So, Father, as we move forward in our days and our listeners and viewers move forward in theirs, Father, bless them to be what you would have them to be, to share the blessings that you render only unto them, and place a hedge of protection around their homes and their families. And Father, give them your travel mercies as they move forward until we meet again. So until next time we come before you and we say that
Hard knocks
is where hope rocks. Hey, we love you. Come back again and be sure, hey, to follow us on Facebook as well as on YouTube and on each of our Facebook. That's what happens when you're old and you forget what you're going to say. You just. But until next time, that's it. Hey, God bless you, and we will see you again on Oh No, You Didn't. At least that time it worked. I forgot completely what I was going to say.